This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
Ooh, what up, though? It is another Thursday, and I'm smiling like Sam Alvey. And if you didn't get to check out Tuesday's show with Sam Alvey, you need to go back and check that out. Yeah. I mean, if you're a betting type of man like I have been lately, and J-Bone has been lately, I mean, dude, he gave you an exact time and an exact round that he was going to knock his opponent out. He said, and you heard it here first, 4 minutes and 43 seconds in the first round, he was going to knock out his opponent come this Saturday at UFC Vegas 59, which we're going to give you our full picks to. But like I said, if you didn't get to check out Tuesday's episode with Sam Alvey, he also told us what his dream match would be in pro wrestling. But since we're talking about pro wrestling, we're talking about MMA, we got our buddy Chris Connor from Last Call with Chris Connor to rejoin us and talk a little bit about MMA and some wrestling, hence the Thursday Throwdown. How are you doing, kind sir?
I'm doing well. We got to talk boxing because we got to mention this whole debacle of Paul versus Rockman. Who was at fault? Who didn't make weight? I even have some inside notes on exactly why this whole thing got canceled, which I'll tell you guys later on. But we got to get a shot to the whole thing about Usik and Joshua.
Hell yeah!
I'm still blown by what Alexander Usik has done. No other athlete would do that, but him. I'm like, you got to give him props.
Well, let us in on it, bro. We can start right there. He's talking about the Alexander Usik and Joshua rematch that's going to be happening, and there's a bunch of really newsworthy stuff to talk about when it comes to this fight.
So first off, we also are working on getting a little spoiler here. We're working on getting Alexander Krusik, the promoter of Usik, to come on next couple of days. We're definitely going to talk about him, but if you've just heard or, you've been paying attention online today, basically Alexander Usik went to the Saudis to purchase the TV rights for Ukraine. Right now, Ukraine doesn't have any TV rights. Everything in Western Europe is covered by basically by Dubois and BBC and all that. And the Saudis said, all right, you know what? You can't afford it, but as a gift to you, we're going to give the Ukraine, we're going to give the Ukrainian TV stations, your YouTube channel, and the streaming free rights to the fight.
Wow.
I mean, think of it. Would any other athlete in America do that? Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to basically take money out of my own pocket so that all these people can watch it for free. Because, they're going through a tough time. I mean, do you think LeBron James would do that? Tom Brady, The Rock? No, none of them would. You look at Usik and go, you're willing to buy this for your people. You got to give props to a guy like that. That's just,
Well, I mean, he's –
yeah.
I thought we were but he was already on, a bit of hiatus, we'll call it, because of, everything going on in Ukraine. So for him to – yet again go kind of above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that the people of the land he just spent the last few months, year defending, get to at least see what all that work was for, I guess you could say.
I completely agree, dude. It's insane too, because in a day when we're talking about the UFC, where you hear people talking about all the time, like pay-per-view points and who's getting money off the buys and this, that, and the other, to hear somebody do that, and not only do that, but in a fight of this high of a magnitude, that is it's a hell of a thing to do. And especially with what's going on, obviously, with Ukraine and Russia, I mean, that's a big move. So shout out to Ugas. What up, though, Cody? we see in the comments. Anybody who's in the comments, chime in. Let us know where you're watching from and what you're going to be watching this weekend. I, for one, am going to be at the Tigers game on Saturday. Hopefully they do not let 3 ground balls go through their legs in one inning like they did when I was there last time. And we'll be doing all right. But, yeah, let us know what you're going to be watching. UFC Vegas 59 is going down this weekend as well. Like we said, this week's guest, Sam Alvey, will be fighting on it. And past guest of the show, Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill, will be fighting in the main event. So let us know if you're watching, who you got, what kind of parlays you're throwing down. And we're going to have to see where J-Bone is going to be laying his bets for Saturday as well. What up, though, Chris? We appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you guys share the stream if you guys feel so inclined. But, all right, so we started off with a little bit of boxing, talking about Ugas and Joshua. We also had AEW Dynamite last night that went down, and there was also some news that came down on a couple different fronts for AEW, in that it was announced that a few people were getting some promotions, and then there was also some new people being brought in, like Madison Rayne, multiple-time Impact World Women's World Champion, is being brought in as not only a coach, but clearly she's going to be wrestling, because she'll be wrestling on Rampage in her hometown tomorrow. Chris, what are your thoughts on some of these promotions that we saw from AEW? Do you think it's going to be a big change? Like I said, I think Madison Rayne will definitely be a good thing as far as coach-wise, and obviously she can still wrestle on the women's side.
I just don't put much stock in it. I mean, it's until Tony Khan wants to really invest in women's wrestling, put more than one match, on a Dynamite, just throwing it out there, Tony. It's still going to be the same thing, and I think it's basically, to me, I read like almost a PR, like, oh, yes, we're doing this, this, and this, and it's going to be great, and this, and this. And it's like, okay, how about you start putting more women's wrestling on, investing in it? Because it's almost like they just look and go, okay, we did one wrestling women's match, great, yay! And that's it.
You're not wrong. I mean, there's not a ton of matches, but I mean, they had, we saw on Dynamite this week, we saw the Dr. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter go against Thunderstorm, which, oh my God, Tony Storm going from corner to corner and hitting that ass bump in the corner, like the whiplash. Son of a bitch. But you're right. There's not a ton of women's matches on each card. I definitely think that there could be more of that. But okay, let me ask you this. Do you think some of that could be resolved by maybe Dynamite becoming a 2-hour show as well?
Oh God, no. It just look, I've always said you got to cut back on the talent. I mean, they have too much talent. They have 130 wrestlers. 130. Where are you going to put all these people? And don't give me the YouTube stuff, because nobody really cares about the YouTube. It's like it's too many people. Like every WWE guy who gets cut, there's Tony going, "Come here, I love you. Come here." I mean, even you want to admit when he's embracing Cesaro as if that's how I would embrace like Halle Berry or Ebony Mystique or Reagan Fox, like, the huge hug, and it's like, I will let go. That's what he's doing to a male wrestler. That's when you pull the man card, go, okay, you lost your man card there, buddy. You lost.
I mean, I'm not going to say that after Forbidden Door, I mean, I saw everybody talking about how he was so huggy at the press conference, but
there's hugging, and it's like full on just groping. Come on. Would you do that? I mean, if you're running a business, do you walk up to your employees and go,
I mean, I'm not saying that I would be hugging everybody, but I mean, we all know Tony's
I love it.
We all know Tony's a fan too, so I don't know. But I can't lie. I did look and I'm like, wow, he is like hugging a lot of people.
I mean, you make valid points, right? Like with the women's matches, yeah, they definitely should and could, and I feel like it would help the business, even if they were able to really put some more women's matches and highlight, spots. It seems like they've had the same rotation of the 3 to 5 women that have been near the top, while Britt Baker was basically at the top the whole time, and now Thunder Rosa and so on. But really, other than that, to your point, there hasn't been a huge showcase in talent. And then every time, to your point, that WWE lets go of somebody because they don't fit into their storyline or whatever the case be. I mean, I get it, right? These are talented wrestlers that are really good at their craft. But if you're already struggling to get the guys that you have on your rosters that you signed for the exact same reason, that they're good at their craft and so on and so forth, if you're struggling to get them in your storyline, where are you just going to keep pulling new guys from and filling spots with as well? It's an interesting direction, and with the points that you make.
I mean, so here's the thing: they're still doing well as far as like where they're at in the ratings, but they, at the same time, though, they've definitely had a drop off from where they were at. And Chris brought up the last time he was on about HBO Max, but what was it that you were telling us about the show before the show about that, though, Chris?
You just saw that HBO Max cut. I mean, literally, they spent $90 million on Batgirl. They basically canceled it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not airing it anywhere. They also are, in the process of supposedly canceling Supergirl, Green Lantern series. There's now talks they might be canceling Blue Beetle. I mean, I keep telling people, like, David Zaslav, who is the head of now Discovery, Warner Brothers. He's not married to AEW. He didn't do the deal. He didn't sign them. We don't know if he's a pro wrestling fan or not. Probably isn't. He's going, I'm going to trim payroll. If this doesn't, match with what we're doing for the company, I'm getting rid of it. And do I think they'll, get, cut right away? No, but I could see them at the end of your contract, David going, all right, we're done. It was nice. We're moving on, because look, they got the NBA contract coming up in about a year and a half. They got the NCAA, Final Four contract coming up. You have Major League Baseball coming up. You have a lot of contracts coming up, and all of a sudden they're going to cost billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell do you want to, keep AEW for a show that, it does 800,000, in the ratings, but it's not something that is a huge hit. It's not something that gets probably a lot of advertisers. It's still, a niche product.
It's definitely that. It's definitely a niche product in that regard. I don't know about the advertisers. I feel like with the whole pull with the Khan family and stuff, I feel like they'd probably do fairly well in the advertising sphere. But yeah, I mean, the viewer. You brought this point up one of the last times you were on the show as well, and I had done a little more arguing against it at that point, but with the clear trimmings that are being done out there, there's definitely a possibility for
it. It's just going to be interesting to see how things play out. I certainly don't think that I don't know that we're going to see like what happened with WCW, where TNT and TBS just say the hell with it and they're done with wrestling. Although that being said, we've heard, we heard it rumored a few times about there being more with AEW and HBO Max. Well, clearly if they're cutting that stuff, maybe that could change as well. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But what were your thoughts on some of what we saw? You mentioned you wanted to see Sam Alvey versus Orange Cassidy. Well, Orange Cassidy had himself a hell of a match on AEW Dynamite, man, and I don't know. It's Jay Lethal coming off of what happened with Ric Flair's last match. If any of you guys watched Ric Flair's last match or the show, let us know what you think in the comments. But it's going to be interesting to see where we go with it. But Jay Lethal getting himself a W over Orange Cassidy on AEW Dynamite. I don't know.
Me.
I don't know, it feels like it's the next victim for Wardlow, and
No.
that's the thing that I look to go. There's a guy, but they're really screwing up. It's like you got two hot acts. You got MJF and you had Wardlow. But to a few guys that you've developed that are yours, that are hot, that WWE probably looks and goes, we'd love to have those guys. And yet MJF is now basically, on milk cartons. Where is MJF? I don't know. Did Tony bury him somewhere in the desert? We'll find out. And Wardlow's like, okay, they need to push him against guys. Like, this is where you push him against like a Cesaro and put him over, or a Malachi Black and put him over. I mean, this is where you start going, okay, he's earned that right to have wins over top guys, not Jay Lethal, who's been basically mostly a jobber for the most part since he came into AEW and hanging out with best friends who they're nice, but they're comedy acts. So it's like, this is how you're treating this monster.
Okay, that's a hell of a match. J-Bone just suggested. I mean, you got the ROH television title on the line too. I want to see Wardlow versus Samoa Joe, just fantasy booking. I don't really have a problem with how they've booked Wardlow, at least thus far, but I do agree with you now that he has the TNT championship. They definitely need to start upping some of the level of competition for him, which I think they are slowly but surely, but I think now that he's got the championship, they're going to have to solidify, his reign as champion. Now, that matchup that Jordan just suggested could be one hell of a way to do so, but I think right now they're going to try to finish things with Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal. Hey, J-Bone, how's it looking out there at the Tigers game, or did it get rained over? But with that being said, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And then we've got next week, they're saying is it going to be next week or at All Out? One or the other. You're going to have John Moxley versus the Lionheart version of Chris Jericho for the AEW World Championship. I think it's going to be a great match. I still am interested to see how this is going to play out, though, as far as when CM Punk comes back, if they're just going to have the two of them face or what's going to happen. What do you think about the world title picture over there, Chris?
I mean, they should never put it on CM Punk. I'm sorry. He's old. I mean, I know people say, we're looking here. I'm not a big CM Punk fan. There's reasons behind that, which if you want, I'll get into. But I mean, look, this is a guy who you signed. He's 43 years old. He had retired, been away for 8 years, basically.
What up, though, Paulie?
And he got hurt. And he got hurt doing a move which he wasn't supposed to do because he had no, experience doing it. Now all of a sudden, is this going to be a recurring thing? I mean, is this going to be something? I mean, last time people talked to him, he was still in pain, having trouble walking. So I don't know. This is right now. If you're AEW, you basically put the belt on Moxley and you go, he's a champion, and you hope that CM Punk comes back, but he might not for a while because broken bones in the foot, those aren't something that heals quickly, especially the older you get.
Well,
yeah, that's for sure. Any type of foot injury, they just take forever to heal, especially if you're trying to still be any type of active. I mean, you're on your feet, so you're going to have to deal with, in his circumstance, broken bones. Of course, he's not going to be immediately, but, a couple months from now, he's going to still be trying to be active on it. And for broken bones, the best thing you can do is just rest them. And unfortunately, it's one thing you can't do with feet. But that being said, I see why they did it with the whole CM Punk thing, because they wanted to give him that run of, official AEW, champion run. I'm sure they didn't want this injury to hit as fast as it did. That's definitely unfortunate and stuff. But
not right after you win the belt.
Yeah, I imagine what it'll basically boil into is whenever he does come back, if he does come back for that matter, it will be, if not 1 or 2 matches away from it, it'll be like, hey, I'm back to immediately, claim what's mine type of push. But we'll see when that time comes.
Well, I mean, it gives perfect timing for somebody like Moxley who's been kind of away from the top for a while. I I mean, you build him up, you give him a few title defenses. I mean, and then the thing is, you got to remember that who knows how long the Blackpool Combat Club is going to be around. Right now, I mean, when you think about it, they've really got all the shit in AEW. They've got the AEW title. They got the Ring of Honor title. They've got the Pure title. They've got all the belts right now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens out of the Blackpool Combat Club, because I was talking about this when I was listening to Busted Open. Shout out to past guests of the show, Dave LaGreca and Ryan McKinnell. I don't know that it would happen anywhere down the road, but I just get vibes with Wheeler Yuta, although I think he's soaking up all the knowledge he can from the Blackpool Combat Club. Something tells me with him having that Pure title, I feel like at some point he's going to get a little big for his britches and go head to head with Moxley or one of them. And even if it's not getting, too big for the Blackpool Combat Club, when they first came in, he basically had to prove himself against him. I could see him at some point, after he's been in there a while, coming back and saying, you know what, I've been in the Blackpool Combat Club for a while. It's time for me to be the guy. Like I say, that's something that I could see in the near future. But like I said, right now, Blackpool Combat Club seems to be running everything in AEW, despite what Jericho says. But that all could change come next week. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. Chris, I know there's some more fights before we get to UFC Vegas 59. What else are you looking forward to on the weekend?
Well, I guess first off, we gotta get to this, because this is just, it's pure boxing at its best or worst. We were supposed to have this big fight, you might have heard of it, like Hasim Rahman Jr. versus Jake Paul, and it was going to be on pay-per-view, and that thing blew up worse than, like a drunken bum, trying to cook, meth and cocaine at the same time. I mean, it's just
sounds like it could be combustible.
Here's the truth about what happened. They didn't sell enough tickets. I mean, as of last week when they canceled it, they'd only sold 5,000 tickets. It wasn't a big seller. It was supposed to be on pay-per-view. And, the bubble sort of burst on Jake Paul. I mean, when he fought, the first time, it was okay. It was nice. And then when he fought Ben Askren, hyped it up. And they played it up, and, it became big. And then after that, it's like, okay. You just wonder with Jake Paul, is he serious about this? Like you were talking about Logan Paul. Logan Paul is serious about pro wrestling. He's serious about doing WWE. He has made the effort. Jake Paul hasn't fought one boxer yet. And it's like, okay, first time around, okay, no problem. Second time, no problem. You want to do a rematch with Woodley? And then you hear all these comments like, and it's depending who you hear. Like Hasim Rahman Jr. said, look, I try to get down to the weight. I told him I could only make 215. I'm a 235-pound heavyweight. They said he didn't even make the weight, 5 days out or 7 days out. And you even hear if WBC is going to rank, Paul if he wins. It's just
rank him in what?
Bad. Oh, because WBC wants money, and they look at Jake Paul.
Of course they do, but how the hell can you rank him with who he's fought? He ain't even fought nobody that's even ranked in boxing. Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah, as for the
this
ranking
is the same
part,
WBC that ranked a dead man once. Never put anything past them.
Yeah, the ranking thing is absolutely ridiculous. I've heard both reports on both sides, right? Like I've seen the whole thing that Ariel Helwani, I feel like in this situation especially can't necessarily be trusted because he was working behind the scenes. He was supposed to be like he was very involved with the production. So I don't necessarily trust everything that's, being posted on his side involving this matter. But that being said, he came out and posted the whole big thing that MSG as a, organization or whoever the heads of, whatever came out and made a statement saying they're still willing to work with Jake Paul. It wasn't necessarily a ticket thing they felt. that there was going to be a huge influx, with, the week coming and stuff like that. And that it did, dissolve basically because of the New York State Commission not allowing Rahman Jr. to fight. Then I've heard, to your point as well, the contrary thing where there's not a lot of ticket sales. The interest didn't seem to be where they wanted it to be. And then basically the weight thing presented itself, and it was a perfect way to pull the rug out and not necessarily take the fall for it. I can see both sides for sure. I can definitely see both sides. I know me as a fight degenerate that ends up watching everything. I was excited for this one. And to your point about the not fighting boxers and stuff yet, I feel like he's at least trying to fight boxers with the whole Tommy Fury thing being canceled twice now. And then now this Rahman Jr. thing being canceled. I feel like he's at least making that attempt. And honestly, I feel like the Rahman Jr. fight was a tougher opponent had he been able
I agree
to
with
make
that.
the weight and everything like that than the Tommy Fury fight. But he's at least making that attempt. The interest is still there for a fight degenerate like me. I was going to be watching it. I don't know about purchasing pay-per-view or not, but I was going to be watching it one way or another. But that being said, it sucks that it's canceled, but I don't know which way to lie with the evidence, because it truly could be a mix of the two things. But I feel kind of like it was perfect scenario to call this one quits, at least.
Well, so here's the thing that was weird to me too. Like, I mean, again, I'm not saying that I've never heard of there being a such thing as a rehydration clause, but like, here's the thing. Even if you listen to like the press conferences and all that stuff, like leading up to it, just a lot of the things they were saying just was so weird. Like when there's a rehydration clause, and if what Hasim Rahman Jr. says is true, when you're saying that he's got to make 210 or 215 or whatever they made the contract,
it was originally scheduled, I believe, for 200, and then the Paul side allowed it to move up to 205, and then it got canceled because he was still at 215 at the beginning of this week or whatever it was when they officially announced the cancellation. So
okay, so I don't know. I thought it was 210, but like
I feel like 10 something pounds isn't that big of a deal to make a weight cut. To your point, if there's a huge hydration clause where he's only allowed to gain back 7 or something like that, then who knows?
And I think that was Rahman's whole argument this whole time, is that if I'm only getting a 10-pound rehydration and I'm a natural heavyweight, I mean,
then
part of me wonders if Jake Paul really wanted this fight, to be honest with you. Part of me wonders if Jake Paul wanted this fight because he thought, okay, well, I did okay with this guy in sparring. Like Rahman said, you heard Rahman say multiple times leading up to this fight that a lot of the sparring sessions that they had were where he was at some kind of disadvantage, which it's not like we all haven't, anyone who knows anything about fighting, that sometimes how sparring will go. One guy will only use his left hand to get you good at defending against certain things. But it almost seemed like to me, and Chris, I'd like to know your thoughts. It almost seemed like to me when Rahman kind of started throwing out all those facts and saying all that, it just seemed like Jake Paul kind of just clamored up like, oh shit, maybe I might have messed up.
There's just so much you don't know, who to believe. I mean,
and again, that's all speculation.
Yeah, I do know the fight.
Everything in this matter is speculation. That's the whole thing.
I'll tell you the one person I feel terrible for this whole thing is Amanda Serrano, because she's tied with Jake Paul, and as this is all going on, he's trying to get a rematch with Katie Taylor, and he's now making demands. Well, Katie, you got to drop down to 130 pounds to make the fight, and Eddie Hearn is looking going, oh, screw you, we're not conceding anything here. We're the A side, you're the B side, and if you're Amanda Serrano, how bad does this look that your promoter can't sell, that he's canceled, the fight, that we're not sure if the fight's going to go on or not. She's going to lose out probably on money, and she's stuck with this idiot promoter because there's not much else she can do. I mean, her original promoter was Lou DiBella, and Eddie Hearn and Lou DiBella hate each other. So they, that was basically a non-starter. PBC's not interested in women. Top Rank looks to be, but once again, you'll have in the ESPN Matchroom, the Zone feud, which that's not going to happen. So she's now looking around going, okay, I'm going to go into this rematch next time out, and she'll probably have to make concessions on a lot of things, and that's because, her promoter is Jake Paul, who's just looking so unprofessional these last, couple of weeks. You look and go, you're just an embarrassment now. This was no longer about, are you a real boxer or not? This is now about you're ruining everybody else around you. And
but do you think that the general public's really looking at him that way, though? Because the narrative that I've been seeing is like, and we all know as wrestling fans, ultimately, a lot of times when it comes to people like this, their fans are going to follow their narrative, whether it's necessarily correct or not. And the narrative that Jake Paul's been putting out ever since all this stuff came out was that, Rockman didn't want to make the weight and all that. So if that's what we're playing is the fight not happening, I don't know that I necessarily think that Jake Paul will take too big of a hit as far as the outside looking in because of how that stuff is. Now, in the matter of Amanda Serrano.
Let me jump in here quickly because you're talking about fans. Fans are one thing. Where I'm talking about like business people, promoters, boxers.
Oh, I hear you. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. They're looking right at this and go, this kid's a clown show. Why should we deal with him? Why should we invest in him? And as I said, if you're Eddie Hearn, you're going, why am I going to even listen to you next time you come in here? That's why I said this has hurt him a lot. Because his fans basically follow him to either see him get knocked the hell out or to see if he can actually win. But if you're, a fight fan, if you're somebody who wants to do business, if you're somebody who wants to, invest in him, he's made you look like a fool, and you're probably going, screw this, I'm not dealing with this kid, especially when they can't sell. He's no longer a pay-per-view draw. He's no longer this, unusual thing. He's now just another novelty act that's run its course.
That point's fairly valid, but I feel like it really boils down to a lot of these B-side opponents that he's been picking lately just have not done their job of trying to promote this fight whatsoever. Really the only media that you will see on it. And I don't know if that is because maybe the heat's kind of fallen off. His momentum's, the hype train's not chewing like it was just a year or so ago, but I'm not sure if it's that point or if it's just that these opponents have not done, like, every time you even see any of them come out and do any type of media or anything like that, it's really just like almost shitting on not even him. It's like the fight in itself taking place. Like, I don't, none of it's like hyping up fans to watch the fight to see, to your point, who's going to get knocked out? Is he going to actually win against a legitimate opponent or anything like that? It's just always, I don't know. He's the only one doing the hyping, and I do agree with his point when he made that he's the only one, trying to build these fights up. And so maybe that did affect ticket sales to the point where the cancellation thing happened. I'm still not sure about the whole cancellation thing. I feel like it would be weird for the New York State Commission to go in line with the, because they've came out and made statements as well about the whole weight thing. If it was really just a ticket sales thing and they just needed to cancel it because they weren't getting the sales numbers that they were, looking for. So I'm still I still feel very up in the air about the whole thing.
Well,
myself.
They're trying to cover their bets because I'm guessing the ultimate plan is eventually they cash out and it's Jake Paul versus like Anderson Silva or Vitor Belfort.
I think that's the next one.
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah, but so they want that fight because right now the Barclays gets a lot of premium fights. With everything going on, Vegas is now back getting the big sexy fights, or Texas. even Florida. So New York, Vasco Garden, we're looking around going, okay, we'll take anything we can get right now. And if that's Jake Paul, that's Jake Paul. Because, look, in the end of the day, we're not going to burn the bridge, but let's face it, if this was about, weight and everything, and they were still doing big ticket sales, like, they'd make this fight. They would go ahead. It was just, you saw, like, the prices of tickets sluffing around, and it was just like, there's still 10,000 tickets that haven't been sold. There's still a lot of things that, nobody's really covering this fight. And I know you say, but his opponents aren't hyping it. I feel it's like, well, here's the problem. We're waiting for him to actually take on, a live body who's a legit, cruiserweight or legit prospect. I'll even throw out, some names who are around, where he is. A kid right now from Worcester, Mass. Demek Edmonds, 6-0. He's, he could have probably driven right down and made that fight. He's 27 years old, 6-0, 5 knockouts. They could have called him and made that fight. I doubt Derek, Jake Paul wants to get knocked out against a guy who he looks and goes, "Ooh, well, if I lose to this kid,
I was going to say that's a hell of a step up fight."
Not really. It's 6-0 and 5 knockouts. I mean, against a guy.
Yeah, he was taking on what 15-1 or whatever. Rockman
yeah,
was.
Compared to Rockman, sure, but I just mean.
But
in
with
general.
boxing records too, it's so. You really got to do your research on who these, 15-1 opponents are.
Sure, a lot of them end up being padded.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, it's not like any of Jake Paul's fights were. Again, this is where the problem of him not fighting real boxers and things comes in, because it's like, let's be honest, it's not like he's really. Even though he's had a few knockouts, he fought a basketball player that was half of his size. He fought. Ex MMA champion, 2 ex MMA champions. Yeah. He's not fought a straight up boxer yet, and that's why this last fight was so intriguing. But I guess we're gonna have to wait and see what comes next out of the saga of Jake Paul, because as mentioned, Logan Paul has been making sound waves over there in the WWE and says that we're gonna see him back. Even more, we just saw Triple H on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast and all that stuff. So while one Paul brother looks like everything's falling through, everything looks like it's money for Logan Paul. And speaking of money, if you got to get your money together, make sure you check out the homies from G3 Payroll, Tax, and Accounting. They will get your files together, get your taxes together, get your money right. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you. Check out that link in the description, and they'll get you together. Tell Jack we said what up, though. All right, Chris, we got a couple other boxing fights. But before we get to that, what's going on over there on your channel, man? What do you got coming up next?
Well, tomorrow we're dropping interviews over at Anchor FM, which will be the last one on Anchor FM, because I got some news for next week here. We got Said Sama joining the show. He's getting ready for his big fight coming up on Bellator 284 on August 12th. We also got Omar Figueroa who'll be joining us, and he's, as I said before, last time we were on, he delves into a lot of this, depression, anxiety that he's been going through. It's a very powerful interview because he literally opens up about the stigma that he's had to face, not only from his own family, but from the boxing community, how, the way that mental health is treated. It's definitely must listen to an interview. We're going to be dropping that tomorrow at noontime. You can check it out on Anchor FM. We got over the weekend. We're going to have Bubba Jenkins, he's getting ready for his semifinal fight on PFL over in the UK. We're looking forward to him coming on. And next week, we're finally, after some work, spit, threats, and everything else, and even having to, hire monkeys to work on it, we're launching finally the website, lastcallpodcast.com. We're going to have boxing interviews, MMA interviews, boxing schedule, and even some of the greatest hits I've done from, Olympians to actors, musicians. You can be able to check it out only on lastcallpodcast.com starting on Monday. I'm very excited to officially launch it. It's been a year in the making, but finally we've made, a legit effort to build this whole website thingamabob up.
Well, congratulations on the website.
Thank you. As I said, several monkeys lost their lives. Interns were fired. I threw some things and had to throw a temper tantrum, but finally, we are launching it.
Well, dude, you'll have to get us the link for that. Shout out to you on the website, and so everything's going to be found there. Are you still going to have the YouTube channel and all that stuff too?
We'll have the YouTube channel, but you will also get, if you have trouble with YouTube, you'll be able to see our videos also on lastcallpodcast.com. And as I said, we're even like archive stuff. So like interviews we did with like Ray Stevenson when he was shooting for Black Sails, or Jessica Parker Kennedy, who's now on The Flash, Miranda Tias of Tyrant fame. We're going to have those interviews on there so you can just check them out and go, holy crap. He actually interviewed people who are famous and like actors, not just fighters. Whoa.
I like it, dude. So what's your favorite interview that people should check out on there?
There's a ton. And as I said, we got to speak with Nick Searcy. You got to check that one out from Justified fame, and also Moneyball. We got to, loved having him on. As I said, Miranda Tias. We enjoyed having her on. Bren Foster from The Last Ship, who also talked about he nearly became a UFC fighter. He was that close, and then he went to acting. And it's another story for another day. But I've been fortunate. There's been a lot of great guests we've had on. Even some Olympic gold medalists in.
Did they have
Tamara,
a broken
Mensa
neck?
Stock? We had her on the show. I mean, I've been blessed. So as I said, we're gonna be airing this stuff. There's no pay-per-view wall, so you can just click on it, listen to it, and we're gonna be adding stuff on every month and just new stuff and new tidbits here and there.
Well, hell yeah, man. I can't wait to see what you got there. The question is, do any of these Olympians have a broken freaking neck?
Well, Tamara Mensa Stock doesn't have a broken freaking neck, but she won a gold medal with possible ligament damage in her knee and still won and still cried and gave hugs. So I think that should count. I mean, it's not Kurt Angle, but as she said, she loves her hugs.
Well, I like it, dude. Like I said, we're going to have to check out and see what you got on the new website and all that good stuff. Well, the other thing we got to talk about on the weekend, as we mentioned at the front of the show, we had the return, long-awaited return. I can't believe it took us that long in between the last time that Sam Alvey was on until bringing him back on, being the last time he came on was before UFC was here in Detroit, which was 5 years ago. So hot damn, I don't know why.
The question is, did Sam Alvey get the win following coming on the show?
I'd have to go back and look, to be 100% honest with you. But hell, we're going to be the good luck charm. He's going to go in there. He's going to get a knockout in 4 minutes, 43 seconds. You heard it here on the show. He said he's going to knock him out in the first round. And shit, if you're a betting kind of man, put some money on it.
If anybody could use it, it's good old Smilin Sam, man. He needs some good luck in his corner, man. Talk about a string of bad luck.
He gets in there and bangs, though, dude. So I think regardless of how this fight goes, he's going to get – if he goes down, he's going to go down swinging. But fellow past guest of the show, Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill, is in the main event as well. And I feel like somebody else might be taking a nap. But we're going to get into this UFC Vegas 59 card and make some picks. Let's get after it. All right. So again, I don't ever know if these things are like in order of any kind, but we're gonna go with what's in front of me.
Before you start reading off the order, because I feel like it's very prevalent with this one because it's the tough finale. Have either one of you guys watched a single second of?
I've watched the whole thing.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Why wouldn't I?
Well, because even a fight degenerate like myself has made it through about 6 of the episodes roughly, and I had missed the whole back half. The whole back 9 I walked away from. I had kind of seen the way it was playing out. But I feel like it's very prevalent going into this one because it's the tough finale.
I got you. Chris, did you watch The Ultimate Fighter?
I did not. I don't have the UFC Fight Pass thing. I'm trying to, as I said, I had to decide.
You got ESPN Plus?
No, I had to get rid of it because, as I said, the interns were ready to revolt. I had to pay them off. So, I had to cut some corners here and there. But I do know Muhammad Usman. He's a legit, heavyweight. A lot of people were on him before this. Zach, Paga, that's a guy who comes from another power camp. He's, from Elevation Fight Team. So you have two legit heavyweights who, they are, or light heavyweights in a lot of ways, who both of these guys can, bang. They both have good wrestling. I'm going with Usman, though, just because I just think he's, the more well-rounded fighter, and I think, he's been through everything more than Pauga. I mean, he's had those, the wins, the losses. He knows what it's like to literally have to, dig deep.
I like it. I mean, I'm not mad at that pick. I mean, he's definitely the more experienced, but man, Pauga's got the power. And you talk about good heavyweights. He's also going to have Curtis Blades in his corner this weekend as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Having watched these fights, man, I think Usman should win, but I think that Pauga is a little bit more athletic than him and could catch him. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. As far as picking one, I'm going to go with Usman, but boy, if I was going to bet on Pauga, I would bet on him by knockout because, man, that guy's got fucking dynamite in his hands. It's going to be interesting to see how that fight goes. Like I said, don't know if these are the orders, but here's where we're going to go. So you got Priscilla Cachoeira versus Ariane Lipski, which could be a very fun fight. Who do y'all boys got in this fight?
Cachoeira has done a great job of allowing her opponents to land far too many punches on her face in pretty much every one of her fights. So with that being said, I got to go with Ariane Lipski.
I kind of lean in the same way. What are you thinking, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, Cachoeira is hit and miss. Something, unless she starts off fast, usually, you find out she'll gas out or she'll have trouble. I like Lipski. I think she just has more, tools to win by here.
I'm going the same way. I think Lipski wins this one. I think Cachoeira is, has a chance in the fact that she's wild, but I think Lipski overall has more tools in the toolbox. I think that's going to be what ultimately gets him to win. Shout out to the Madman, Mickey Marshak, checking us out again. An old training partner of mine just picked up the dub at Lights Out. He says he thinks that Usman's way too wild, so it looks like he might be going with Pauga as well. Going to be interesting to see how that one plays out.
I'm curious to see how much Usman's skills have improved because he had made that run, to your point, with I believe it was PFL, if I'm not mistaken. It may have been Bellator, but I'm pretty sure it was PFL. He made the whole debut, and his brother was in the crowd and everything like that. And then, unfortunately, had lost the fight and ended up not staying with the PFL for that reason. And I feel like while he was there, his skills were definitely not anywhere near the level of his brothers, and it was apparent he definitely had some holes in his game that he needed to improve on. So with that being said, I had only seen Pauga in the two fights that I had watched before I had tuned out of the tough season. But that being said, he looked pretty good in both of them, man. And to your guys' point, I definitely don't. I feel like it wouldn't be a sleeper pick necessarily to think he may put Usman to sleep.
I mean, like I said, I think if he wins, I think he's winning by knockout. The next fight we got on here, you got Augusto Sakai versus Sergey Spivak. They got Augusto Sakai as a plus 200 underdog on this one.
Yeah, that's why I was going to say is another fun fighter to watch that necessarily hasn't done the greatest job of showcasing where their potential ceiling is Augusto Sakai, man. I feel like he could be a very good, heavyweight UFC contender, but he just keeps going in there with these guys and not really relying on his fight IQ in any form or fashion, and just going in there swinging and not having it go out in his corner. And then a lot of these guys are just able to ground him out, and it doesn't seem like he's able to put up much resistance against it. So it's going to be hard to lean in his corner going into this fight, man.
So you're going Spivak.
Yeah, got to, especially with the style that Spivak implements in his game to win his fights, he has done the complete opposite, in my opinion. He came into the UFC extremely green, looked like he was fresh as could be, and I don't know if it was nerves or if he just wasn't able to really get the momentum needed in the first couple fights. But ever since then, man, he's been steadily improving his levels. If this was the RPG game, he has all of a sudden went from a low-level character to a somebody to watch out for on the map, man. He's definitely making moves in that heavyweight division. So I'm definitely going Spivak.
What do you think, Chris?
I gotta go with Spivak. I mean, you gotta start worrying about Sakai. I mean, he's now suffered 3 straight back-to-back knockouts. And look, Alistair Overeem, that guy, is a truck. Biggie Boy, my guy, Yair Rosenstrike, he could probably knock out a rhino if he wants. And Taya Tuivasa, another guy who likes to just start banging and, knocking people out and drinking shoeies. But when you get knocked out 3 straight times, it's like, okay, there's something, you might have to start thinking retirement. And
yeah,
look, you look at Spivak. Yeah, he lost earlier to Marcin Tybura, but his last, 5 fights, it's been 4 wins, 1 loss. Only lost Tom Aspinall, who's much better than Sakai. He has knocked out, a submission win over Tai Tuivasa. He has wins over Alexander Olenek, Jared Vanderrod, Greg knockout win over Greg Hardy this past March.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Spivak. I'll say submission second round against Sakai.
I tend to think that it's going to be. I tend to think it's going to be Spivak as well. I think, like you guys both mentioned, I mean, with the skid that he's on, again, not saying that because somebody's on a skid that they can't bounce back, but he's on a couple knockout skid. And when you look at the way Spivak's been fighting in his last few fights, he continues to improve. To your point, Corey, I think Spivak gets the dub in this one. All right. Next fight on the card. So we already have made our picks for the men's Ultimate Fighter finale. The female Ultimate Fighter finale involves Brogan Walker versus Juliana Miller. Now, again, I have watched all of the fights. With that being said, I think Brogan is definitely the more technically sound fighter. Juliana Miller is a dog and will fight until she's dead. So I mean, I don't think that she's going to back down at all, but I think personally, out of the 2 women, I think Brogan Walker is the more skilled. I think Brogan Walker becomes your female Ultimate Fighter.
Yet again, from what I had seen, I with a name like Brogan, you kind of got to show some interest, right? Like, it's just such an interesting name. Whether you got to live up to expectations whenever you have an interesting name, I feel like. In her case, she did, and to your point, she did look very skilled in the fights that I was able to see, and it must be something in the water with these Julianas, huh? They just all are dogs, huh? But that being said, I agree. Probably Brogan's going to be able to get this one done.
And Brogan Walker said that she was injured during the Ultimate Fighter. So if she got to heal up in between this, I'm interested to see how that plays out. Who do you got in this one, Chris?
I'm sorry. To me, this is you bet the farm on Brogan Walker. I mean, you look at her record, and it's pretty damn good. I mean, she already has a win over UFC stalwart Miranda Maverick. Her only 2 losses were to Pearl Gonzalez, veteran flyweight, Erin Blanchfield, who has quickly gone on to, become a rising force in the UFC. You're talking a woman who has 7-2 fights versus somebody who literally has 3 pro fights. I mean, literally is basically still a newbie. And I get it. She ran the whole thing. She beat Caitlin Neal. She beat Claire Guthrie. The house is weird. It's always been a weird house where nothing ever goes according to plan. This is what we go according to plan. But Brogan Walker, I think, just picks her apart.
Mickey says Juliana. He wants Juliana to win. I like it.
I'll probably even go 3rd round knockout for Brogan Walker.
Man, you know, I think that it's going to be Brogan Walker too, but man, Juliana Miller, it's hard not to want to see her win because, man, like you said, Corey, in the name, in the water, whatever it is, she's a dog because she can bang. She's tough. I think her heart's going to get her through it. I mean, that my point exactly. I mean, if you watch the fights on the season, I mean, she didn't give up. And I think she was in 2 fights where she was ultimately underskilled and still ended up getting the dub. Oh, dude, I could definitely see her getting finished, or Brogan's going to really have to put it on there. If you guys are just joining the stream, we're talking UFC Vegas 59. Who do you guys think is going to be the female Ultimate Fighter? We made our picks for the male Ultimate Fighter, Pauga and Usman. I think Usman's definitely got the ability to do it, but I went with Pauga. The next fight that we got on this card, we've got Vicente Luque versus Jeff Neal. I think Jeff Neal's been very underrated for a while, but I find it hard to see anybody beating Vicente Luque right now. But Chris, who do you got in this fight?
Yeah, I gotta go Vicente Luque. I mean, he's one of those guys you look and you go, okay. Before Bilal Muhammad, he was just wrecking people. Michael Kisa, Tyron Woodley, Randy Brown, Nico Price. He's only lost to, when you look at him, he is an impressive, record here. He's only 3 losses. Leon Edwards, who beats almost everybody who's not champion. Stephen Thompson, once again, former world title contender. Bilal Muhammad, he has a win over Muhammad as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, Jeff Neal's a banger. He's always in action-packed fights, but I just think this is, for too much Luque, too much just overall talent. I think he wins by decision.
I agree with the pick. But to give a little more analysis on it, my whole thing is that I feel like both of these guys are at very similar stages in their career. But my issue with, why I wouldn't go on the Neal side is I feel like Vicente Luque is just a couple, we'll use the reference again, levels ahead of where Jeff Neal is currently in his career, even though they're both in very similar stages. They're both, at this point, they're known UFC guys that have fought top level competition, whether successful or not. They've both made that push towards the upper echelon of the division. Vicente Luque a little more successfully, to your point. I feel like Jeff Neal, the style that he brings is the reason why he's not going to be able to get this one done, though. He's a brawler, boxing first, doesn't really implement any kicks, doesn't really implement any takedowns. He just, usually if he gets it done, it's usually by landing power on somebody at one given point. This card's not great, but it's a tough finale, man. They got to fit in 2, unknown, 4 basically unknown fighters, unless you've been paying attention to the Tough series. So that's why it blows. And then earlier in the prelims, there's a couple, but we're not going to get to those necessarily. But that being said, I feel like Vicente Luque is going to be able to get this one done because he's just slightly faster, slightly better, and does implement more aspects of his game. He throws more kicks, throws just more variety to his striking game, and I feel like that's where the difference is going to be.
I think Luque is definitely going to be again levels ahead of him, especially in the striking part of the game. I feel like he's going to be able to land just harder shots. I mean, the guy kicks like a damn mule. Yeah. I just feel like he's going to be too much and overwhelm Jeff Neal. Now, I don't think Jeff Neal is going to run. I don't think Jeff Neal is going to back down. I think he's going to try to stay in his face. But I think ultimately, whether it's quick or over 3 rounds, like Chris said, I think Luque is going to put it on him. And I just, for as far as who wins, I think Luque wins. Bruce, I agree with you, man. There's not a ton of big fights on this one, but I know you were watching us this past.
Boy, dog. We got our boy.
Well, I know that, but I was getting there next. I mean, I know there may not have.
I'm saying for all the people that keep saying that this card keeps sucking, you got to keep in mind that they're legitimately putting a up and coming, could be the next level of the top 5 of the division at 205. They're giving him a showcase main event again. You know, they just gave him the one against Johnny Walker. Now they're doing Thiago Santos. I feel like I wish they would have picked a different opponent. There's other guys at 205 that maybe would have garnered more interest in this main event beyond Thiago Santos because he's on the slide that he's on. But that doesn't mean that it's, you know, all of a sudden a shit event and you should tune out or something like that. I feel like Jamahal Hill's still definitely a prospect.
I think the fights always,
your eyes on.
will deliver. I think ultimately it'll deliver, as far as seeing fun fights, but I agree it may not have as much name value. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Jamahal Hill. Who do you got? And how is it going to win?
It's got to be Jamahal Hill, right? We got to go with the homeboy on this one. But beyond just the show affiliations and stuff like that, the state affiliations and everything else, it really, his skills that he's been able to showcase other than that Paul Craig fight, and I don't feel like Thiago Santos is going to be able to implement that game, that ground game, even if it did get there on Jamahal Hill. every other opponent though that Jamahal Hill's fought, man, he has he's really just ran through these guys on the feet, man. He's looked almost untouchable out there. He's willing to stand in the fire and throw some punches with these guys, but he's not getting hit. It's like I don't know if it boils into his head movement or if he's just able to control the range really well on these guys, or no angles or something. I'd have to do a little more deep diving on his game to see exactly why he's able.
I know what does it, and I'll tell you. I'll let you give your
let's
pick.
Hear it. Let's hear it,
dude. If you follow him at Sweet Dreams J Hill, man, good lord, this dude was trying to kill them all with that red, white, and blue Speedo he's been rocking around Vegas. That's what did it. I'm just saying.
Dude, that's what did it.
That's what did it.
That's what keeps his opponents at the perfect range and allows him to hit and not be hit. But
got like a mermaid man belt, bro.
He does a fucking great job in there, man. Like, and I'm not just saying that as like some fanboy from the hometown and shit, but no, I feel like Jamahal Hill is he's really showcasing why he belongs in this main event showcase,
Hey man, whoever made that laughing emoji, we try to give you guys the laughs here, but all jokes aside, I think I'm on the same court as you, Corey. I think Jamahal Hill is gonna make another guy go to sleep come this Saturday. Chris, what say you? How do you see the main event going?
Yeah, I got to go with Jamahal Hill. You look at it, unfortunately, Thiago Santos, and at one point he was just murking people left and right. And then ever since John Jones, it's just almost like the wheels have fallen off. And,
the knees,
Johnny Walker. Man. Johnny Walker is even a hotter mess than he is. I just think Jamahal Hill is he has too much power, too much youth, and he's just a taller, more athletic fighter. I think he easily wins, and he's one step closer to a light heavyweight title shot.
I think you're on the money with that one. I think Jamahal Hill is definitely on the way to what?
Before we
Jamahal Hill versus Angela Hill, the battle of the hills. We gotta know.
We gotta find out, bro. No, but before we pull off of the UFC event in its own, and I've been hearing, I don't bring this up just because of the one commenter mentioned it, but I've been hearing it all week that this card sucks, yada yada. I'm gonna do something else on Saturday for once and stuff like that. What can the UFC do to actually start to garner some interest?
What is your beef with Angie Hill? Wait a minute. How do you not like Angie Hill? What the fuck?
She's a sweetheart.
Bruce, I know you come in here with the hot takes, bro, but how can you be hating on Angie Hill that hard?
Yeah.
Dang.
Even if you think she's, whatever about her game, man, she's sweet as hell.
Good Lord,
that's for sure.
And she can bang.
Yeah, and she goes out there and shows her heart. But that being said, what the hell can the UFC do? Can they offer some type of prize or something to garner more interest in it to the winning fighter other than just a contract or something? Because contracts are being handed out. 5 this last week on Dana White's Contender Series.
But did you watch week 1 or the week before that where he gave one contract because motherfuckers weren't fighting?
But what I'm saying is contracts are being handed out. It's not like the old days where it was like exclusive club to make it into the UFC, and there's only 6-7 pay-per-view events throughout the year, and hopefully you're able to get on one. It's not like that anymore. They're showcasing talent from all over the place. Whenever they go to some of these local shows, they're starting to sign talent and stuff like that to showcase the local guys and stuff. I mean, they've done it in the past, but tenfold now. Contracts aren't as valuable as they used to be. And then when you look at the fact that these tough winners aren't even like getting some, they're still at the 15 and 15 or whatever. They're not making some substantial, boost in their contract or something from winning the season. What can they do to garner some actual interest in these guys? It seems like they're trying to pump it up on ESPN Plus and stuff like that, but it's just not working, man.
Well, Mickey bringing up a good thought just from a fighter's perspective. Why leave the house for weeks away from your family when you can go beat one guy? Here's the thing, man. In reality, the Contender Series is basically killing the Ultimate Fighter when you really think about it, because, I mean, dude, they don't even, when you watch this season of the Ultimate Fighter, I mean, to be honest with you, it's not like back in the day, like when Miles was on there, who also happens to be a past guest of the show. Go ahead and check that out. But, when him and Darren were on the show, you saw a lot of the stuff that was going on in the house still. Now they've cut a lot of that out, which I'm sure some of it needed to be cut out. But, I mean, you don't really see much of what goes on in the house. You're seeing, when Usman's brother showed up, you're seeing when they get to talk to their families for a little bit, but you're not really seeing much of the interaction in between the teams like you used to either. I would argue that the Contender Series is going to do away with the Ultimate Fighter soon enough. Now, that being said, I think something that you could do to maybe change that and help it, I think the seasons where the season where Matt Serra won, or when they did like the inaugural strawweight champ, or something of that ilk where they're fighting for something and it means something right off the rip. Or at least, I don't know, let's just say if you win the Ultimate Fighter, here you go, Mickey chiming in. I love the Ultimate Fighter, seeing the guys train, but all the Contender Series is 5 fights straight to the point, blood and gore. I mean, dude,
with the modern world the way it is, and everybody, obsessing over TikTok videos that last 20 seconds, that's what everybody wants, is straight to the point with the action. I mean, a good point, I feel like, to not criticize tough, but, to lay it out there. Brian Battle fights this weekend. We didn't, he's not even on the main card. He's 2-0 now in the UFC, making his 3rd appearance, if I'm not mistaken. Winner of Tough from last year. And they're not even making a big deal about the fact that he's on the card this year for the Tough finale this year,
Well, I think something that goes to your point, Corey, I think especially with a guy like Battle, Battle I thought was great. I watched the last season, he was on there with past guests of the show, Vince Murdoch. I mean, but with that being said, I think the reason why, the other thing that comes into the Contender Series and why people are enjoying that so much more is ultimately there's automatically going to be stakes because it's going against your record. These aren't just exhibition fights. And you're seeing where a guy will go in there or a girl will go in there and they lose in a Contender Series fight. And then these people are having to fight 2, 3, 4 fights to try to get another shot just on the Contender Series, where on the Ultimate Fighter, I mean, none of those fights are counting towards your record. I think these people are coming in here realizing like, oh shit, not only is this the biggest job interview for me, it's also, if I fuck up and lose here, it's also going to go against my record. Yeah. So I think that has a lot to do with it. We're going to have to see how it plays out. I mean, Chris, you can have the last word on this one, man. Do you think, do you have any ideas for what you think they could do to spice up Ultimate Fighter, or do you think we should just stick with the Contender Series?
I'd kill both. Just put them down.
Both.
Yes, kill them.
The Contender Series.
Kill them all!
Because, I mean, the Contender Series,
White and everything he says, they were trending #1 with last week's event, and it was everything.
Name me a great fight who came for Contender Series. I mean, think of it.
Jamal,
the best fight
Jamahal Hill fighting this week.
Sean O'Malley.
Sean O'Malley. I feel like Contender Series has done an amazing job. I feel like definitely keep Contender Series. Tough,
Jimmy
though,
Pest
I
gets to the show. Jimmy Flick.
Yeah, I feel like Tough, though, I can agree with your point. I feel like Tough, I can definitely agree.
Tough has ran its course, but I think Contender Series is still hot. And like Mickey said, I mean, the fact that you're getting 5 fights and there's such top-level guys that are fighting and you're getting banger fights. Now, if we see banger fights every week, because as we saw in the first week, Dana clearly is not fucking around. So if you ain't coming there to fight, you can hit the road.
Just keep your ass at home, yeah.
So unless it's a stand and bang, bro, stand and bang, Dana doesn't want you. That's why I said kill both of them off. Just if you're good enough to make the UFC, you're good enough to make the UFC. Don't have to do one of these. Just stand and bang, bro, stand and bang.
But he signed many of people off of impressive submission. I think what it boils down to is
that would be an interesting way to do it,
and actively chase a finish, whether you actually are successful in it or not. Go in there and actually, and fighters will tell you all the time, I'm always going in there looking to copy, get the finish. But you can tell when somebody's actually putting some, biscuits on the line and risking their own to try to actually chase that finish throughout the fight, and that's what he's talking about. He wants to see that true action fight. It doesn't necessarily have to be a
what do you got? I mean,
only, but
maybe this will have
where you're at least chasing submissions and at least making an active attempt to try to win the fight at every given point, and not just hold position and win a round. That's what he's talking about.
Oh, I agree completely with that. But I mean, shit, Mickey coming up with another Ultimate Fighter idea. What about if you put the top 10 guys in there and have them fight and make them fight for the belt? Now, I don't think you're going to get a lot of those guys to do that. I mean, ultimately, I think a lot of those guys that have been in, it would be dope if you did it. I mean, but wouldn't
it'd be like
he already said he doesn't like tournaments though.
It'd be like a PFL season basically, but for the UFC if they were to do it that route, see who fights for the belt at the end of it all. But that one would be a great thought, but I not happening.
Again, they got to have something to be fighting for on the line. That goes back to what I said with like the title shot or a number one contender or a whatever. As long as something is there on the end of the thing, because unfortunately winning the Ultimate Fighter and winning that trophy has lost some of its luster, over the years. But what's not going to lose its luster? Knockouts and 3 counts. So you got to make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're new here, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that like button, share it, all that good stuff. Because like I said, you never know who could be on the other end of that Zoom box with us. And I can just tell you, we've got some really cool shit that could be potentially coming to you. Some of which, thankfully, helpfully facilitated by tonight's guest, Chris Connor. So, Chris, before we let you get out of here, man, again, let everybody know where they can find you and the website and all that good stuff. And man, stay tuned to see what we've got coming in the weeks to come.
Well, you can check me out once again. It's the Last Call podcast on the YouTube channel. Just type in Last Call on the YouTube channel. We also have a Last Call podcast launching next week. I'll be with everything YouTube video, audio, everything you want. And for now, you can go to it's anchor.fm/Last Call Chris Connor. So we can check out the audio interviews. And gentlemen, always a pleasure. And congrats to you guys on your success. And hopefully you guys can break the curse, and Sam Alvey will not only get a win, but maybe he'll throw
we're going to be his good luck charm. Damn it! You heard it here first. 4 minutes 43 seconds. Sam Alvey is coming by knockout. You heard it here first. Peace.